Another quick tie. Your next fly starts here.
Welcome back everyone to another quick tie. My name is Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bover Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying. And on this quick tie, we're bringing you a very cool bug called the killer bug. Great name. It must have a lot of promise in this fly to be called something so cool. We're going to get back to that fly here in just a second, but first we do want to thank fishfuel.ca for sponsoring this quick tie tonight. Well, that was good. Fishfuel.ca, we're giving you away on this episode one of our fly boxes from fishfuel.ca. So a big thank you to them for that. How can you win this fly box? It's pretty simple. All we're going to get you to do is to, in the comments below this video, we want you to like and subscribe. And then also, you got to leave your name and where you're from. And then we're going to make a selection from those comments as to where this fly box is going to go. So please comment, leave a comment, and we will get this off to one of you lucky people. All right, let's talk a little bit about this fly that we're tying up tonight. So first off, I'm going to be tying this out of my Season 8 kit. It looks something like this. Okay, if you're following along out of our Season 8 kit, you're looking for Episode 2. Package is going to look like this. Okay, this is what you're going to be looking for, and you're going to grab the fly out of the back that's named the killer bug. Now, if you found us through the individual kits, it's going to look something like this. Okay, and probably you just scanned that barcode there and it's brought you to this video. If you don't have either of our kits, that is totally fine. You can head over to our website and you're going to find a full fly recipe. I'm right there with all the materials, although there isn't very many in this particular fly. But for any of these quick ties, you can find all the materials for each of them on our website. So if you don't have our kits, don't worry. You can still tie along with us if you have your own material. So this fly we're tying up tonight, the killer bug, it's actually quite rich with history. It was created by a pretty cool dude. His name was Frank Sawyer. And this guy was actually kind of the grandfather of a certain style of nymphing. Euro nymphing, can I say it? That's one thing we would call it. Also maybe just sight nymphing. But he used this kind of technique that we call, I can never get this name right, Neveron or Netheravon style, which essentially was an upstream nymphing technique where he could see fish feeding and he wanted to present flies to them without any type of indicator or anything, just trying to get them to feed at it as it was coming back downstream towards them. He created a couple of pretty important flies, but this is one of them. Now, something else about this fly is it has evolved over time, mostly because of the materials that are available to tie it. So originally, this was tied with something called a Chadwick 477 yarn. Now this yarn is not in production anymore, and so people are trying to sort of recreate it / use substitutes, which we're going to be doing tonight. We're actually using creating a dubbing noodle instead of using an actual yarn. And that just comes from the fact that these materials are very hard to find, and if you could find that Chadwick 477 still, you're going to pay hundreds of dollars for a small card of it. So it is the best, but we're not going to find enough of it for everyone to use. So we're going to take you through our style of tying this and just kind of get into this bug. So let's head over to the vise, get your kits open. Let's get our next hook placed in the vise. So we're tying this on a size 14 scud hook. So as you can see here, this is what our pattern's going to hopefully end up looking something like. Very simple, 2 materials. We are going to be using this dubbing as well as some copper wire, which is going to create the segmentation. Now, what is this fly supposed to be? That's a good question. There's some argument over that as well, but originally this is supposed to be a scud. Okay, so a scud, or some people would call it a freshwater shrimp. Kind of like a freshwater crustacean that lives in our water systems, and there is a little variety in color. The original Chadwick 477 was a little more gray in color. This is more peachy tan. We're tying it in tonight. Could also go with olive as well. So that's what it's supposed to be, and it's weightless, so it can be fished in different styles. Kind of already explained to you what that original style was. Now let's go ahead and get this fixed in our vise. Now we are going to need access quite deep into the bend of this hook, as we're using a lot of the hook to create this pattern. At one point in the fly, I will actually tip the hook back up so my eye is more vertical. Makes it easier for finishing off the fly. Now what I'm using for thread tonight is I'm going to use some tan colored UTC 70, so something a little thinner. We're making a dubbing noodle out of it. Thread bulking up on this fly is kind of irrelevant. It's not a big deal, so use what you have, something that matches your dubbing color. I'm going to come here and start my thread just behind the eye. Take it back a couple eye lengths, make sure it's secure before I come in here and snip out my thread. Now the next material you're going to grab out of your kit is going to be size extra small copper wire. Okay, this is going to create the segmentation on our fly when we bring it back forward over top of our dubbing, and it just gives that body a little bit more realistic appearance. And the original way of tying this with the original better material, you actually tied it under on the hook shank itself and brought the other material over top. But like we said, we've had to change things a bit to kind of create the same looking fly with different materials, so we do it a little bit different now. So I'm going to take this wire, I'm going to start it on the near side of the fly, make sure I cover up the butt section of it, and then I'm just going to hold it on the near side of the fly, meaning towards myself, and we're going to take this all the way back and about as far into the bend as I can go based off of how the hook is sitting in the vise. So take it pretty deep back in there, okay? I can just let that wire kind of stay out back behind or out of the way in a material clip. Now we're gonna go over to our dubbing material. We gave you guys in your kits about enough dubbing to tie 1,000 of these, so don't throw that out when you're done, put it away, and you can use it on some more of these again. Now, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a fairly good clump kind of off of here, and I just like to open it up, air it out so you can see how much material you have, and I'm gonna start to set that aside so I can create my dubbing noodle. Now, if you've never created a dubbing noodle, it's a fairly simple process. I wanna get a little bit of extra thread off my bobbin, gonna use maybe a couple of inches worth, and I'm gonna grab little pieces of that dubbing. I'm gonna place it between my pointer finger and my thumb, and I'm gonna spin it in one direction until I create a nice tight noodle. We call it a dubbing noodle. Now we're gonna work some material back down the thread and then bring it forward on the fly. So what that looks like, I'm gonna grab a pretty decent clump, but continue to kind of break it up so it's a little bit longer like that. And I grab it in my fingers, I place it next to my thread, like so, and then I'm using those thumb and finger again to come in here and start spinning that on my thread. And if I pull down on that material as I do that, I can start to cause that to rope up. I just start moving a little bit more down, adding it in, and keep spinning. Now on this one, we do want a fairly tight noodle. It'll look something like this. It's okay that there's little pieces of the material coming off, as that just adds to a little bit of the bugginess, but the core of it, we do want it to be quite tight. Now the goal of this is to create an interesting taper as well. We want it to start pretty thin at the back of the fly, bulk up in the middle, and then kind of thin out at the head again. And that's just based off the profile of what a scud actually looks like, and trying to kind of recreate that as we work our way up the hook shank. Now I've added probably maybe too much, but that's okay, we can always pull some off. Now my first wrap, I want it to be a full wrap at the very back where I left that wire. You're gonna have to work around that hook point, just like so. And then I can start slowly taking wraps forward. Remember, I want to be a little thinner at the back and then start to build in bulk as I move forward. And as I go, if I need to tighten up that rope again, I can just spin it with my fingers and tighten it up. Now you can back wrap over wraps you've already taken, which you see I kind of do here as I go, because I'm trying to create that profile. I want it to be kind of thick enough in the right places. So I'm gonna add a little bit of double wrapping kind of in that midsection of the fly so I get that bulk that I want. And I'm gonna be a little shy on the size of my noodle this time. That's okay, I'll just add some more. Finish that right there. I'm gonna grab a little bit more dubbing. Continue making this noodle just a touch bigger to finish this off at the eye. Add a little bit more in here. And it's fine to just kind of keep adding as you need to. I normally do one big long one at the start, and then as I move forward, I just kind of add any amount in that I need to finish out my taper again. Add just a tiny bit more. We do want it to kind of taper off a little bit back at the head again. So you need to make sure you have enough to do that right at the very end without really crowding that eye too much, because we do need to put some knots, some half hitches at the end, and also still bring forward that wire. So I'm gonna leave myself a little bit of room just behind the eye. Had a little bit too much on there, that's fine, just pull it out. Now at this point, I'm actually gonna take my hook point, or my eye, sorry, and tip it up a little ways. That'll make sure that my thread doesn't continue to try to fall off the front of the eye. And now, before I move on, I'm gonna do what I call a little save button or half hitch, just a single overhand knot right behind the eye. And that's just to save my work to make sure that that material isn't going to come off my thread. Now I'm going to set my bobbin over on my bobbin cradle, or you can just let it hang. And now I'm just going to start to palmer this wire forward. I don't want to go super tight when I pull on it, but I want to create nice even segmentation as I move forward up this fly. And we're going to try to finish this kind of right. Get one more wrap in just behind the eye. And from here, we're going to get that material tied off. So I'm going to do some thread wraps just behind and in front to make sure that that's secured. You can either snip your wire off at this point, or you can come in here what they call helicopter, which just means I'm going to continually to twist that until it breaks off. And if I tied that in well, they should have no reason that that's going to slip off and come out of there. Now you could either whip finish at this point, or you could also use a half hitch tool, which is what I'm going to do. It's a little easier on these smaller flies. And I'm just using this hollow end of this tool. I'm going to wrap my thread around the tube twice, slip that over the eye of the hook, and allow those thread wraps to come down off the end and land just behind the eye of the hook. I'm going to do 1 and then 2. Don't pull too hard on that thread if you're tying with a smaller thread like I am, because it will break on you, and you want to make sure you get that double knot in there. And once I've got a couple of those, I'm pretty confident that that's not going to break on me, and I'm going to leave this without resin, because in my experience with this dubbing, if you put resin on it, it really changes the appearance of it, and I don't really like what it does to it. Now, if I have any stray pieces of this dubbing that are hanging down too low, like I kind of do here, I'm just going to come and trim a few of those down. It's okay that there's the little guys, but those little bit longer ones, like I have out here still, I'm going to take those out of the equation. And there we go. Very good looking, very simple bug, but definitely something we seem to miss in our fly boxes sometimes is remembering that many of our water systems, rivers and lakes, both carry these scuds or these freshwater shrimp, which are always good to have a few of these in the box. All right, guys, again, this has been another quick tie with Tim. I do want to ask that you go over, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that little bell icon. It's going to notify you every time we come out with a new video. So next week, there'll be a couple more videos coming out with episode 3's flies. All right, guys, thanks again. Thanks to fishfield.ca for sponsoring this episode, and we will see you next time.